Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Carefully Speaking with your host, Dr. Jamillah. Yes, it's been a minute because the last time that we were here talking, it was mental health awareness in the month of May. But I am back today on this very special Father's Day, Sunday, June 15th, 2025. Today's episode is called The Realness of Fatherhood: Presence, Pressure, and the Power of Showing Up. Now, this is often a day where we think about celebrating the dads, right? Obviously, because it's Father's Day. Or maybe even our granddads, our uncles, our father figures, all of the folks that have shaped our lives. But for many people, this day can also stir up a lot of different emotions. Some may be feeling grief. Some may feel a sense of longing. And some may carry some regrets. And others might just be sitting with that quiet feeling of, I'm not even sure what I feel today. But whatever it is that you are feeling, I want you to know that it's okay and you're not alone in that. And today, I want to hold space for all of it. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the realness of fatherhood, the joys, the silences, the weight, and the ways culture and history shape how men show up as caregivers, especially in Black and Brown families, because fatherhood can often look very different than the narratives that we often see in movies. And it's important that we name that. So stay with me and let's dive into this Father's Day edition of Carefully Speaking. So, what I want to talk about in this segment is the other side of fathering. When we talk about Father's Day, we often think about the biological role, someone who helps bring a child into the world naturally. But in Black and Brown communities, fathering doesn't always follow that traditional script. A lot of our men and a lot of our brothers are learning to love and care without ever having been shown. So some of you might know who Musiq Soulchild is, but he's an R&B neo-soul singer, and he has this song called Teach Me How to Love. And the main hook of the song, teach me how to love, show me the way to surrender my heart. Now, when this song came out, most people thought that it was a love song, and it probably is, but really what it is the anthem of Black love in all forms from a man's perspective. Too often in our communities, men are figuring it out as they go. They weren't always taught how to express themselves through tenderness, but they're trying. And that trying, that's a part of fathering and caregiving too. The truth is, fatherhood can come in many different forms, and it's often a role that is shared collectively. It's a role that's often expanded across generations, and it's even culturally and socially redefined in very quiet but powerful ways. So I want to talk about what some of those other ways of fathering and caregiving may look like in real life and in real time. We have some men who are raising children as single fathers. Yes, because maybe the other parent is no longer present. And that could be for various reasons. It could be through separation or divorce. It can be through emotional disconnection. Or it can be simply because the other parent may have transitioned. There are some men who are raising children that are not biologically theirs. Right? Maybe they're bonus dads or stepdads or guardians. And they're parenting children that they didn't biologically create, but still chose to love because they knew someone had to. There are some men taking care of their aging parents, particularly their mothers, because in many Black families, there's often this unspoken expectation that sons, especially the strong ones, are going to step in when a parent is aging or unwell. And sometimes this responsibility can land on daughters too, but in families where the parent is aging and unpartnered, or where other siblings may have drifted away, and if that parent is a matriarch of the family, the responsibility often lands heavily on that one person, the son who usually takes on that role steadily and is often seen as the capable one, right? So I mean doing things like driving to doctor appointments, picking up medications, making sure that there are groceries in the refrigerator, making sure the smoke detectors and the fire alarms are all working properly. All of that too is caregiving. And then in some families, you find uncles who are raising their nieces and nephews as if they are their own. And anyone who has a niece or a nephew, you may know the sentiment that they often feel like they are your own children. We may have those big brother types or the ones who are trying to fill in the gaps of an absent father, right? Trying to keep their younger siblings out of the systems that often don't support their success. And what about the men who are out there mentoring our youth, right? The ones who are out there on the blocks of our community streets, not just because it's a good deed, not just because it's something to check off on their resume, but because they understand what is at stake. And we do have to talk about those stakes. We can't go without naming the systems that are at play. Because the truth is, when a big brother is trying to keep his little brother off the streets and out of jail, he is doing it with the full awareness that our kids are often up against a system that criminalizes them too early and gives them fewer chances to be children. I'm about to give you a statistic. So Black boys are nearly 4 times more likely to be suspended from school than white boys. And that's just the beginning. We know that exclusion from school settings often leads to increased contact with law enforcement. And that is not a coincidence. That is what we call the school to prison pipeline. When school systems exclude our children too early, the next stop is often law enforcement. And then when you add in over-policing and disinvestment of Black and brown neighborhoods, well, we're now looking at a structure that sets up too many of our children to fail before they're even grown. So when that man shows up to coach football on the weekends, when he mentors teens in the after-school programs or checks in on the kids hanging outside the corner store, that's not just recreation. That is what you call an intervention. It's protection. It's an act of resistance to the systems that rarely protect our brown bodies. So whether he is a godfather, whether he is a barber, whether he is a deacon or a pastor at the church, whether he is a basketball coach or simply the neighbor next door, when a man offers consistent presence, structure, and protection, he is fathering in the fullest sense. All of that is fathering, whether he has children of his own or not. Because it's not about biology. It's about shaping the trajectory of countless lives by stepping into a sacred space that no one else is stepping into. And as Bell Hooks once said, the heart of fathering is care. And that care, it shows up in many ways that sometimes don't even get thanked for. But I do want to honor that today, because those men don't always get the Father's Day cards or texts. But even so, their presence is a lifeline in our households and in our communities. So now I want to take a moment to speak about my own story, because like many of us, Father's Day holds both warmth and weight. My father transitioned many years ago when I was still a child. But to this day, I still hold very vivid memories. I remember him taking me fishing when I was about 7 or 8 years old. I remember us taking long car rides and trips to Maryland to visit our family. I remember just always being around him. And what stayed with me wasn't any single moment, but the feeling of being safe and being loved in his presence. And no, we didn't have decades together, but the moments that we did share, they were meaningful. And that is the part that I carry with me, not the loss, but the emotional imprint. The rhythm of knowing that someone showed up for me when they could, and in the best way that they could. And I know not everyone has that. Some of you may be grieving the physically there father, but the never quite emotionally present father. And some of you might even be trying to reparent yourselves to reconcile what you needed and what was never given. That's real. Okay? And if this is what you are feeling today, then it is valid. Because part of growing up and glowing up is realizing what we did and didn't receive, and also realizing what we needed. And part of healing is learning to recognize that fatherhood can come in very unexpected forms. Teachers, mentors, friends, and brothers. Yes, fatherhood can even be felt in brotherhood. Like the way a friend checks in without needing a reason, or the way your cousin always covers for you when you get in trouble, or the way your uncle always sees your potential and never lets you self-destruct, or the way another man looks out for your kids even though they're not his own. That is powerful, and it is happening every single day. And it is possible to honor those who gave us that, even if it wasn't perfect, even if it wasn't our bloodline. So before we move on, I want to offer a gentle call to action. Before you close out the day, or even just this episode, I want to invite you to do one simple thing. Think about someone who has shown up for you in a fathering way. Maybe it is your dad. Maybe it is a friend. Maybe it's yourself. It could be you too, especially if you had to become the protector and the provider in your own story. And once that person comes to your mind, I want you to do something intentional. Send them a message. Say a small, gentle prayer. Light a warm candle. Or simply speak their name out loud and say thank you for showing up when I needed it the most. And if you have been that person for yourself, silently and steadily carrying others while holding your own, I really do hope that you pause and honor yourself too, because you are a part of this story. In a world where love and care is often unseen, unspoken, and undervalued, your presence is sacred, and those small acts of recognition are powerful and maybe even life-changing. So as we close out this special Father's Day episode, I want to leave you with this. Fathering doesn't always come in a shiny package. It isn't always perfect. It's not always loud. It can be complicated. It can be full of absence or presence that takes a while to understand. And it doesn't always come from the people we expected, but it does show up in gestures, in protection, in steadiness. So no matter what your experience is, you deserve the space to feel it and to tell the truth about it. And to my fathers who are doing the sacred work, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and consistently, thank you. To the men who are fathering through mentorship, coaching, caregiving, and even big brother energy, we see you and we thank you. To the ones who are trying to reparent themselves while raising others, we honor your journey. And to anyone who might be grieving, searching for peace, or simply reflecting on their life experiences, you are not alone. As Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote, the struggle is really all I have for you, because it is the only portion of this world under your control. And still, in that struggle, love is still born, protection is still given, and children are still covered. Let this episode be a reminder that healing comes in layers, and that real love is felt in the showing up energy, in the staying present energy, and the learning to be better one day at a time energy. I thank you so much for joining me today on Carefully Speaking. If this episode moved you or touched something inside of you, I invite you to share it. I invite you to reflect on it. And I invite you to hold space for someone else who might need to hear it. And to my brothers, if you are doing the work to show up for others, I hope you're also learning how to hold space for yourself. Take care of your hearts today on this very special Father's Day. I'll talk to you soon.